Earlier on today, I of course spoke about news of a pretty divisive car in the electric Restomod world, the R32 Skyline. This one, as I alluded to in that video, is one which I think more of us could get on board with. And certainly I do, for one, because as some of you on the channel know, I would know because I've been working extensively over the past about 9 or 10 months at this point on my own Silver Shadow. And it's funny because the end result of both this company and what I'm doing is kind of similar. Not of course in terms of tech, but in terms of the goal. Because if you think about it, the idea of taking what was a very appealing car with a huge amount of influence, it's iconic in terms of its design, the Silver Shadow or the Corniche, but then getting rid of all the bad stuff, so in other words basically everything underneath, that's what both of us are doing. And when it comes to doing that with a Rolls, you've really got three primary ways of doing it. You could LS swap it, you could electric convert it, you could jack it up on a twin chassis with four-wheel drive, a turbo diesel, 1200 mile fuel tank and turn it into a Dakar style rally monster. I'll let you figure out which one of those is what I'm doing. This particular outfit though, a UK based company called Evice, has their XP1 prototype, which is actually going to begin apparently being built in early 2025, and then hopefully they're delivering some in early 2026, is just that. It's a fully electric Restomod, not just in terms of power though, it's more than that. They've updated the interior, the suspension, the brakes. Of course the performance will be wildly different compared to what it was. Naturally this is not a performance car though, although it will definitely be quicker than a standard Silver Shadow. That's not really saying much. And in the case of the conversion itself, it has an 800 volt layout, so the infrastructure will all be there for that. 77 kilowatt hour battery, so about 200-ish miles of range, which doesn't sound very good for an electric car these days, but I think that's actually more than enough really for most Rolls owners. It's not like many people will be using this as a daily driver, certainly not in the case of the open-top Corniche version, and with 400 horsepower and I would assume probably still rear-wheel drive, well it will definitely be quicker than a standard Shadow because that's like a 11-12 second 0 to 60 time. In fact they're so slow in terms of their engine size to what you actually get out of them that my version with a completely motor swapped, totally different drivetrain underneath, which is virtually a third of the size, is still about as quick in terms of performance because of being a diesel. So you have all the extra torque and of course a modern engine which doesn't, for example, use a carburetor. So they weren't that great for their engines at the time. It's a 6 3/4 litre V8 putting down about 200 horses, and somehow, and this is the thing which I really don't get, it has the same fuel economy as my 462 enormous block Lincoln V8, which makes no sense. The Lincoln is a way bigger car with a way bigger engine, far more power and torque. Both have 3-speed autos or rear-wheel drive, both using 60s, 50s tech essentially. So how on earth did they both do 10 to the gallon? That's never made sense to me. But at least with the Lincoln it sounds good and it's actually quite quick for what it is. A Rolls just isn't. And I'm well aware that of course that's not why you buy one. Still, you'd expect a decent amount of return for all of that engine beyond just being smooth, quote unquote. Now in terms of other stuff that this company is doing, it's going to be equipped with active suspension and improved brakes. That's fantastic to hear because again, as I would know, these are horrifically badly designed when it comes to their brakes in particular. Some ideas are pretty cool. Having twin calipers on the front is a cool idea. Having discs and calipers on the rear for a 1970s car, that was a big deal as well. The problem arises with working on the system. It's so horrifically overcomplicated. Brake pedal that goes backwards under the seat, just weird designs with multiple bleed points, and you can't even just chop the floor out and put a different pedal in because it's got the galvanized chassis right behind the footwell. Just overly complicated, strangely claustrophobic designs for such a seemingly large vehicle. The reality is there's actually not much space to work within a Rolls, either under the engine or really anywhere else. So updating the suspension and the brakes I think is a great idea. It's going to have electronic and heated adjustable seats, climate control or aircon as we'd usually call it. Mine also doesn't have that. No aircon, no heater even, because if you're hot, open a window, and I really don't care the rest of the time, so we've used that to route the wiring loom from the Mitsubishi through the back of the dash instead. It's got a new infotainment screen with reverse camera, phone connectivity, all the kind of stuff which you'd expect. Incidentally, another thing which mine doesn't have, a reverse camera. I've just got a tow hitch on the Mitsubishi chassis instead, so I just back it up until I hear the screams. And this particular version, the XP1 prototype, is of course Silver Shadow based, but they are also developing and showcasing and presumably selling the open-top Corniche version, which is basically just the same thing but with 2 doors and an open roof. And of course the Corniche in hardtop form is what the inspiration for my car was, the Jules Corniche, to run in the Dakar Rally. So it all comes full circle, it seems, between me and this company somehow. To me, as I said earlier on today, this is the kind of occasion where I fully support this idea. When you take a car which was very desirable, for many people this was like the sign of making it in life, if you will, and for some people still is, I guess. The reality of what lies underneath that facade on the outside is, to any mechanic who's worked on them, pretty horrific. So ripping all of that rubbish out and making it better, of course I'm all for that. The advantage of doing it to a car like this is that unlike the Escort, for example, which I talked about last week, which which is a 300 grand car, not even electric, but just 300 grand in general, with a car like this, nobody would really care if it's 300 grand, because it's the exact same kind of client base who would have bought one of these when it was new. It's not like me, where you buy one for a more modest price, rip its guts out and turn it into a monster truck. For the kind of people who will buy this car, it's still as much of a status symbol, in fact, more so now than it was back then, because you get to play the environmental green card as well. Whereas for me, mine's more like a real-world version of Road Trip Adventure, which I can actually drive as a daily. I wish them the best. I think it's a great idea, regardless of the price. It's not like I was going to buy one anyway, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially in comparison to the R32 Restomod with electric drive earlier on today. So that's it for the news. Of course, stick around here on the channel for more, and for now, thanks for watching.